The Trump administration is currently trying to get their nominees approved and voted on. No Democrat should be voting to advance Trump's nominees while all of this stuff is going on. There has to be a political price to pay. And we have a responsibility as a party to block everything that is happening while they're setting a literal match to the federal government and giving 19-year-olds classified access, potentially classified access to the U.S. Treasury Department. So we need to start blocking every single procedural advancement on the Senate side in order to do that. And we need to be a pain in the What do we do? Okay? What do we do about it? There are just like, okay? I know y'all are I can already hear, but just lock in for a second. Just like these problems can seem comprehensive and also overwhelming and complex, understand that we outnumber them. We outnumber them, okay? The people outnumber the 1%. The people, and not even just, and it's not just about 1% and 99, it's not just about that too. Also, everyday people of all sorts of income brackets also overwhelm the number of the corrupt, okay? Understand our strategic advantages in this moment. We outnumber them. Do not forget that. We outnumber them so dramatically that they have to try to control media and communication channels and apps, etc., because they want to and need to invoke docility, passivity in the masses in order for them to get away with what they're doing. Even before this most recent movie season, I would always make the comparison to The Wizard of Oz. But so like, it's not just a wicked thing, okay? Understand that authoritarians are kind of like the wizard in The Wizard of Oz. They rely not on their actual power. They rely on their perceived power. So, principle number one in what you can do is that when one of these things comes to your backyard, when it actually, like when it comes to you, and I will give examples, but when it comes to you, when it does, you can resist. And what that happens over millions of people is that you generate enough friction that they cannot go as fast as they want to go, okay? So I'm going to give you some examples that have already been working. Let's start with immigration and ICE. When people say, what can we do? You can do the things that apply to you. In my community, we are a heavily immigrant community. And so ICE raids deeply affect and disrupt our community. And the prospect of ICE raids deeply disrupt and threaten our community. So, number one, if you live in a community with a lot of immigrants, know your rights. That's one tangible thing you can do that I want you to do. And I'm going to go through what that means. And that means know your rights if you are a US citizen as well. Okay? Here's one way that we're going to create some friction in this system. Okay? Tom Homan, who's directing a lot of these ICE operations nationally, etc. He went on TV practically crying. This dude was whining his ass off because ICE went into the city of Chicago and Chicago had prepared for them. community organizers, activists, and their mayor and local elected officials who were solid on this issue. They educated the city on their legal rights. Because what ICE tries to do is that they rely on people not knowing their rights in order to enter buildings, in order to search workplaces, etc. So when you know your rights, you are able to tell them no, and they do walk away. So you need to know your rights. If ICE comes to you as an American citizen, still assert your rights, because what you can do is protect people around you and also make sure that you are slowing down this system. The slower they operate, the less they can break. You hear me? This is why this is strategically important. The slower they operate, the less they can break. And so know your rights. If ICE comes to your workplace, if ICE comes to your door, you do not have to open the door. You ask them for a judicial warrant, not an administrative warrant. ICE very often tries to show you some official looking paper in order to intimidate people and to let them in. Again, remember, they rely on the perception of power. No. You don't just get some paper and let them in. You look for a judicial warrant. You look for a judge's signature on that piece of paper. If there is not a judge's signature on that piece of paper, you do not have to open the door. When we are relentless, they will fatigue. They will fatigue. They can only hold this up for so long. Draw them out. Draw them out, okay? So we can mobilize electorally, we can mobilize in community organizing, whatever your calling is. Some people don't like electoral organizing. Then I want you to be running a Know Your Rights training, or I want you to be sending out palm cards, or I want you to be Googling your own rights, depending on your energy level. But electorally, we need to go get them, okay? These special elections are opportunities. And I'm not just talking about federally. It is time for us to kick up state legislatures, okay? Iowa just had a special election. That district was supposed to be Republican plus 20-something, and they lost it. They lost it. This was supposed to be a community. It went 20 or 30, it went double digits to Trump. They lost the special. Do not say things are impossible in this time, okay? We jiggle in this house, we jiggle every door handle to find an opportunity. You gotta try 100 times sometimes to make one work. It's worth it. It's worth it, all right? So that's one. Now, what are Democrats doing? So those are some things on what you can do. Now let's talk about what are Democrats doing. Democrats. As many of you know, my relationship with the Democratic Party is, let's call it an interesting one, right? I came in, for people who may not know, I came into office not just by beating a Republican. I came into office by taking on the Democratic establishment and taking on a very entrenched political machine in New York City, and defeated a lot of that in order to get elected to office. And so I say this because I am an elected Democrat in Congress, but also I have I think sometimes a certain independent or little bit of a removed perspective in order between examining how the party is operating and also my direct relationship to the people. And so I've always kind of had this like in the middle type of relationship, and it's always awkward, right? Like, I'm an elected official, so everyday people, it's a different kind of relationship, but also I'm also viewed with skepticism sometimes within my own party, or sometimes historically even hostility from my own party. But at the end of the day, that's like, I'm here. And also on top of that, I don't accept any lobbyist money. I am financed like by everyday people. And the average donation to my campaign is like $16, $20, depending on the day. And so that also means that I am not as attached to lobbyist influence, and also just kind of like the traditional ways that Washington works. I say all of this because I want you to know that when I'm about to talk to you about what Democrats are doing right now, and what we are doing, what we may not be doing, it's done with that perspective in mind, which is that I'm capable of stepping out of the party and looking at it because of both how I got here and the fact that I rely on the support of everyday people. But also, it's also, though, in my communications with you all, I do have a level of insight where I can share with you what I see going on. And so there's two sides to this coin. So I want to let you know what Democrats can be doing right now, and what we're starting to see some mobility on. So point number one, a lot of people say, where are Democrats right now? I don't know where Democrats are right now. There's like two things can be true at the same time, right? Number one, I want you to know the timing with which they did this. One of the reasons why you see, I think, either a delayed response or why it's harder to see where Democrats are right now is because Donald Trump waited until Congress adjourned session in order to start this, for lack of a better word, shit show. And so literally what happened is that Congress is in session for votes, and then they adjourn session in order to go back to their communities, do town halls, do like tours and stuff like that. So it was almost like on the clock when Congress was adjourned and everyone got on planes to go to their districts and their communities across the country. That's when they started hitting the show and all this stuff. So when people are like, why aren't we in the buildings in Washington, D.C.? I like, your member of Congress is in your district, right? That is changing tomorrow. Tomorrow, Congress is going back into session, and you should be seeing a lot more activity. And I would anticipate you're going to see a lot more activity to that end, at least in terms of the House. The Senate sometimes has a different schedule, but the House has the vast majority of people. So I would anticipate seeing more of that kind of activity. Now, in terms of substantive things that we can do, and a lot of times, Democrats in the Senate, in the name of ceremony and fake history, in the case of the filibuster, it's fake history that many of them cite, and what have you, like gentlemen's agreements. The Senate loves their gentlemen's agreements, which is to say, it's not like rule breaking, but it's just like these kind of handshake practices that they have. We have to stop playing nice in the Senate and block every damn thing that we can. Do not give votes to the nominees. And by the way, I want you to look. Do not assume that your senator is not going to vote for these nominees. If you are a Democrat, or if you are a person rather that has a Democratic senator, give them a call and tell them, I do not want you to vote to advance or approve any of these nominees while all this stuff is going on. Please tell them. Do not assume that just because you have a Democratic senator, they're going to, that they're just going to vote no. Trust me. You can look up any of these votes recently. Even at the Defense Department, the nominee, Hesketh, you should even see some of this questioning from people coming forward about not just sexual harassment and with accounts of this, accounts of drunkenness on the job, all of this stuff. You still had a Democrat who voted for him. So do not assume that just because you have a Democratic senator that they're gonna vote no. Like, even with some of the most unqualified people, you call them and you tell them, I want you to vote no. I want you to block these appointees until, while all this stuff is happening, okay? Use our leverage. Make them fight for every single step. The slower they go, the less they can break, okay? We're bringing things down. Now, in terms of the House, what are some of the things that we are doing that can be done? Earlier today, the leader in the House of House Democrats, how do I say this? The leader of Democrats in the House is a gentleman from Brooklyn known as Hakeem Jeffries. He is the House Minority Leader, the House Democrats leader. He sent out a message, a list today with 10 central objectives in terms of things that they're doing. And it's important to recognize what we can do and what we cannot do today. Someone said, a bartender congresswoman talking about qualifications. Hell yeah, I'm going to talk to you about my qualifications, because I know what it's like to be a working class person, and I got elected as the youngest woman in American history to Congress with my knowledge and my ability to organize and connect with my community. So when any one of these people can win an election with that kind of a background and you don't take lobbyist money, then you can give me a call. But until then, these people are seem to be apparently having 3 martini lunches, thinking that they can run and command the respect of the Defense Department. So give me a break. Anyways, back to regularly scheduled programming. The leader of House Democrats is Hakeem Jeffries. He sent out a kind of a bulletin today with 10 objectives. Now, remember that theme that I brought up earlier today: divide and conquer. So we're not going to get overwhelmed. We are going to educate ourselves on who is in charge of what, okay? So one thing that we expect to see, and that we expect to see, is that House Democrats and legislation is going to be advanced this week to implement mechanisms to help block some of this infiltration that we're having at the U.S. Treasury Department. Also today, as a preview, there were some Democrats that are the heads, the Democratic chair, or not chairs, but what is known as the number 2 ranking members. So just so you know, in the House, the reason why who has majority control of the House matters is because the party with majority control also controls all the committees. So it's not just that you have more votes, it's that Republicans will control all the legislation that comes to the floor. Republicans control all of this stuff. So people are saying, Dems will not pass stop. Please understand, again, do not consent in advance. When Republicans have a majority that is this big right now, about 2 people, those 2 people that need to win re-election really, really care about being reelected, okay? So if we put pressure on, I can name one of them right now in the state of New York. We have Mike Lawler in Westchester County. This is a district that was won by Joe Biden. This was a district that was carried. There are Republican House members that are in districts that Joe Biden carried in 2020. These are districts with enough Democrats in them and enough people who vote Democrat in them that they can be unseated, okay? Those people do care about what you think and how pissed off you are. So if you can get you don't need to get 100 Republicans to do something. You can put enough pressure on 4 or 5. And again, this issue is not about Democrats or Republicans. This is about our country, y'all. Like, this is not, listen, I have ideas and I have principles that I feel very strongly about. Yeah, I believe every American should be guaranteed health care in this country. Sue me, okay? Like, oh wow, I believe that people should have a living wage. Oh no, fine. Like, recoil in horror at my big crazy ideas that people should be alive and cared for in this country, fine. But this is not that. This is basic, keep the lights on, follow the law type stuff. And these are things that Republicans can lose elections over. And if we start sending the message that they can do that starting now, then we can start getting some traction and some momentum. Because if you think government is like a George Foreman grill and you can just set it and forget it, I regret to inform you that that is not how participatory democracy works. So we gotta lock in and we gotta start getting people quaking in their electoral boots.